Welcome to Hello Doctors, a joint initiative of Endeavour and doctors for the better learning of MRTP students of Endeavour. Our guest mentor for today's session is Dr. Basab Mukherjee, who is a leading gynecologist and practicing over the last 20 years.
Fair enough. Okay, so no presentation here. We'll have something to discuss and then we take it from there. So a very good afternoon to all of you and welcome to this session of Endeavour. And I thank Endeavour for bringing me in. This is a unique opportunity. For me also, it's the first time that we are speaking to prospective or people who would become representatives of the pharmacological sector in the future. So a few things which I would like to share just about myself. I am a gynecologist. I have been practicing in Calcutta for the last 20 years. I'm in private practice. I've done my medical schooling from Christian Medical College, Vellore, CMC Vellore. I was 10 years in Vellore, and then after that I had come back and I went to England, to UK, and there I did a degree called MRCOG, which later becomes FRCOG. And then last 20 years, I'm practicing in Calcutta as a gynecologist. So we have been interacting with medical companies and we have been interacting with pharmaceutical people, pharmaceutical representatives for the last 20 years. So even in 20 years, so it's a nice opportunity to share with you what we expect, what you should, how you should be coming and presenting yourself, what exactly is the best way forward, and what makes a difference, and what makes a mark. So I think the very important point when you come into a doctor's clinic, or when you meet a doctor, or you visit a doctor, is the ultimate aim. The ultimate aim is only one, that your products are written or that your business is developed. And that is the ultimate objective. There is no other objective. That is the ultimate objective. But to reach that objective, there are several things and there are several issues about how you present yourself, how the doctor perceives you, and how he or she will think about you, and how you will make a difference, or how the doctor can spot you out of 10, 15, 20, 25 representatives who are standing there. So when a doctor is meeting people, we take cards. So there may be 15 people, there may be 10, sometimes there may be 5, sometimes there may be 20 who will come and meet us, and each one will open their cards, say a product, and then they will mention what their business proposal, or what their ideas are, or what new medicines they have brought, and how it goes there. So I think that the 2-3 things which I think first you should understand, first of all is about your presentation, how you should present yourself, how you should be there. So I think the one important thing before you visit or you meet any doctor is you should know a little bit about him or her. Without knowing about him or her, going and visiting is not a very good idea, because you don't have any background about how that doctor is. So there are few doctors who will call in a room, maybe around 7 to 8 representatives at the same time, and will take a few seconds from each of them, and then will then say thank you very much, and then will leave. There will be a few doctors who will make you sit down in their clinic, will chat for you for 5-7 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes, especially if you've got your ZSM, ASM, or your a national sales manager with you, and that is another way in which you will have some interaction. So how to make a difference? So it's a good idea to know the doctor before you go in, because some doctors are interested in knowing about the products, about getting some medical information. Others are not interested in that. Others are interested possibly to chat around with you, just to share some good time with you. So that's another section of doctors. So if you have an idea before you go and see the doctor, that may be a good idea, whether it's a he or a she, about how much of seconds or how much of minutes you have in that clinic to make a difference or to make a mark. If you do not know the doctor, if you're going for the first time and there's no way to find out about him or her, how do you present yourself? How do you approach him or her? The first thing I think which is of utmost importance in anything is that you must know your product in and out. You must know what exactly you are saying. You must know what is your product you are bringing in, or to him or her. You should know, if I can say 3 products, which is the order of them, number 1, number 2, and number 3, if he's having a short of time, if I have to say one or two, which is one and which is two. I think that is something which you have to do, which you have to know your priority, which is a priority which we will be putting in your products or putting in the names you will say. The next thing you should know is about some idea about the products and the scientific information. We see a lot of representatives who come in who are very scared when they come in and when they talk to us, because they do not have the full knowledge of the product which they are explaining. They are trying to explain something which they have heard in a training process. They're trying to say something which they have read in, but they do not understand it fully. And you can understand from the first 1 minute when a person opens a product monograph and starts speaking, whether he or she knows about it or not. You must understand, when you're speaking to a doctor, you are speaking to a person who's trained, who's gone through MBBS, who sees a lot of patients every day. So he or she can read your mind. So psychologically, as you can read her mind or his mind, he or she can also read your mind. And within a few seconds or within a minute, he will understand whether you are bluffing or whether you know what you're talking about. And that does make a difference in the first impression when you're meeting a person. So it's important that you have your background scientific knowledge, whatever little you require for the product, more or less ready, so that you're not just reading from a book. You have a little bit of scientific background knowledge, which you, if you are asked a question or if you want to elaborate, you can elaborate. That is number one. Number two is how you should be dressed, how you should be so dress, I think, should generally be formal. Nobody likes a casual dress. So any formal dress would generally be approved when you're meeting a doctor, especially for the first time. It may be he or she, and that does make a difference. How much to talk, how much to think will depend on the mood of the doctor, or depending on how much of time you're getting. So sometimes before you enter a clinic, you do not know how much of time you will get. It may be a few seconds, it may be a few minutes. If it's a few minutes, you have time to open your products and to say that. If it's a few seconds, you don't have anything, you just have to say 1-2 words and then you leave. So depending on how much of time you have an idea about how much I am going to say, or how much I'm going to speak. So never try to hurry yourself. A lot of people say, যে আমার 2 মিনিট সময় আছে, তার মধ্যে আমাকে 5টা নাম বলতে হবে, আমি তাড়াতাড়ি বলবো, স্যার এটা লিখতে হবে, এটা লিখতে হবে, এটা কিন্তু লিখতে হবে, এটা লিখতে হবে, এটা লিখতে হবে. That doesn't work. That doesn't be help. That's never helpful. So you should always time that when you will, what you want to say, along with the time which you are having with the doctor, with him or her, and that should always be matching. So I think it's important to understand most of the doctors are in a hurry. They do not have a priority to meet pharma representatives. It is not a priority for them. Their priority is to see patients. They get paid for seeing patients. They don't get paid for seeing pharma representatives. That's number one. Every doctor, him or her, consider their time very precious. So every minute is precious to them. So every minute that they spending with a pharma representative, sometimes some doctors may think that as a waste of time for them. Some people may think, no, that's a very good thing, because they are able to get some scientific knowledge, or may able to hear something which is new, something which they have not heard before. This is especially relevant in outside the urban centers, in rural areas, in district people. There are some doctors who really want to learn some medical literature from the representatives, which is useful to them, because they do not always get time to attend CMEs and meetings and academic forums. So one way in which they get health information is by meeting medical representatives, where they get some information. So though they may hurry it, and though you may have a chance to give them one product monograph, or you may have a chance to give them some amount of maybe a leaflet, maybe a brochure, maybe some sort of a printed material, you may be certain that in some cases there are definite doctors who will go in through that, read that, understand that, and that may tilt them towards writing your products or giving you a more better business. Next is the personal touch. How many times should you visit, and whether visiting more times to a doctor or showing your face more frequently, whether that's a positive or that is a negative. Generally, it is always a positive. The more times you meet a person, the more familiar you be with that person, and that is something which is without without a shot, that is something which is very important, because if you meet a person, but again, not too frequently, maybe once in 2 weeks, once in 3 weeks, or once a month, but if it's a quality time, at that point of time when you're meeting the doctor, he or she is not attending the phone, he or she is looking at you eye in eye, then you know that is the quality time, that you have made a difference. You give a card, make sure he or she knows your name. I think that's something important. We often don't know a lot of medical representatives make commas and we don't know their name. So always introduce yourself. Dr. Babu, I'm A from this medical. So always don't say from where you're coming from, pharmaceutical. Always introduce yourself with your name first. So if you introduce with yourself with your name, that is something which a doctor, after hearing 2-3 times, will say, ha ha, esho, please come and sit down. So they'll call you by name, and then slowly you develop a rapport, you develop a bonding with the doctor. যখন আমরা prescription লিখি, when we write prescription of medicines, what comes up in a lot of our minds is the person who told us এই মেডিসিনটা লিখতে হবে, এটা দরকার স্যার, এটা আমার না হলে এটা চলবে না, এই মাসটা আমার খুব চাপ যাচ্ছে। So whenever you write medicines, we often keep these people in mind. এরা আমাদের চোখের সামনে ভাসে, যারা আমাদের লিখতে বলছে বা we sometimes think about the company. We think সেটা MNC কিনা, তাদের R&D research, how much the research is, how much of quality is there for this company, what is the last few years or last 10 years তাদের performance কিরকম। তো এগুলো তো definitely we think about, but also we think about আমাদের চেম্বারে ক্লিনিকে কারা who have come and told us about these products, and that is something which definitely does matter. So if you think that medical representatives cannot make a difference to the doctor's prescriptions, you are absolutely misguided. You make a very, very big difference, because every time a person comes and meets, we definitely get channelized, we get motivated. Sometimes একটা লোক অনেকদিন পর দেখা হলো, কি হলো এতদিন হলো স্যার, অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট হয়েছিল, হাত ভেঙে গিয়েছিল, এখন এলাম তো। So then you always you connect, because so that is something which is very, very important, that you always, so you have a connect with people, and once you have a personal connect, it becomes easier to prescribe medicines or easier to listen to what you are saying. The other thing is that besides outside the clinic, যদি কোনো একটা ডাক্তারের সঙ্গে মহিলা বা পুরুষের সঙ্গে দেখা হয় outside the clinic, let's say somewhere একটা জায়গায় দেখা করতে গেলে, সেখানে দেখা হলো, সেখানে একটা কারোর সঙ্গে দেখা হলো, you know that this person is this and this, so then you can always approach him or her, you can strike up a conversation, you can help her with 1 or 2 things, or you can maybe have a chai together. This is always very, very helpful, because this gets a connect, a personal connection, which is like nothing, like never before. So never miss this opportunity যদি কখনো কিছু হয়. So this is something which you always again approach with your name and your representation, because companies keep on changing. So sometimes some person A may be with this company for 5 years, and the next day will be from another company for 5 years. So the company he's from 5 years, the connection with the company and the person comes. যদি you change your company after that, which often people change in the corporate, you keep on changing, you keep on juggling, then the person often will matter, যে হ্যাঁ এই ছেলেটা তো খুব ভালো কাজ করেছিল, কি এটা খুব ভালো কাজ করে, তো তখন আমরা এই ওষুধগুলো লিখবো. So sometimes it does go with the person who approaches you, or the person who shows you the products which you need to write, or which they come and show you in your clinic. Other things which matter to a lot of doctors, again that's so important, which again we should mention it because it's now an open secret, is how much companies do for them. So how many companies do for them, and at one point of time, not in the beginning, কিছুদিন পর the doctors become, when they have a very big patient load, when they talk nicely, when they give good lectures, they become KOLs, key opinion leaders, and they become high volume practitioners, and then they expect things out of companies, where companies will take them for conferences, will help them with other sort of academic endeavors, with also will possibly take them for an outing. And also these are some things which is something not in your hands, obviously at that point of time, when you are joining, this is not something, but people's expectations are different from different people. So if somebody asks you amader jonno ki korlen, then you always have to refer it to your senior bosses, because they are the ones who generally will make the decision and call on who is included, whose registration is paid, whose transport is being sponsored by the company. So that all decisions will go much above your payroll, and which is something which you do not need to worry about. But you need to know what attracts which doctor. So there's some doctors who are attracted to all the material products that you give them. Like a pen rekhe gelam, kichu sample rekhe gelam table. Does that always make a difference? রেখে গেলাম sometimes often does not, because pen লোকেদের অত দরকার নেই আজকে। Gifts রেখে গেলাম, does that make a difference? Lot of patient, lot of companies bring gifts. এখন gifts are something which again it's like a lot of people look at it differently. কিছু ডাক্তারদের খুব ভালো লাগে, কিছু ডাক্তারদের পাত্তাই দেয় না কেন এত এত gifts আসতে থাকে। But again everybody is different, so you really need to know which one person finds which one attractive and try to get into his or her space, so that they can ultimately, as I said in the beginning, the ultimate goal is to write your medicines so that the business increases, you get your incentives from your company, and finally the company moves, you move, and the doctor also keeps on writing the prescriptions. So I think the personal bond which develops over time is something which is very, very unique and very strong. So in our for myself personally, let's say I'm attached to a lot of organizations, like we have a Bengal Obstetrics and Gynecological Society at a state level. We have the Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecology Societies of India, FOGC, at a national level, where I'm now the vice president on the national level. In the state level also, I'm the vice president. So we deal with a lot of companies for conferences. So people come to sponsor for conferences, all India conferences, state conferences, and then you meet not only the representatives, you meet their ZSM, ASM, national sales manager, and everybody. Sometimes the MD will come down. Sometimes the big shots of the company, the owners of the company will come down. So there are different times you meet different strata of people. So what you will write, what you will not write, again, at your level, I don't think you need to think about that, but you need to think who is important. If your boss comes down from Bombay and flies in and meets 3 doctors in Calcutta, those 3 doctors are very, very important for you, because these are people who you do not want to be on the wrong side of. Because in case you are on the wrong side, in case the doctor says something bad about you, then the entire company will grow against you. So there are some people who are very, very important for your head office, very important for the things, and you need to know them early, so that these are the people who, at least you should not be on the wrong side. Okay, if you are on the good side, that's very good for you. You will get wonderful returns. But if you do not want to be on the wrong side, so you should also identify people who are very important and who you want to place safe. If you think you cannot handle this, his or her, do not visit them alone. Always visit them with a senior or with another colleague, because some people may be very demanding, some people may be very offending or annoying, or some people you may be overwhelmed by them, that na era to birat boro, eder kache gele amar hite biporit hote pare. But that's something which you really need to tackle, and you really need to sort it out. So these are some of the tips, I think, which we see when people. So if you were to ask us whose products do we write the most after 20-22 years, companies keep on changing, because companies, the top brass keeps on changing, the engagement with doctors keep on changing. But what matters is the persistence, how long they have been together, how long has the company, generally the top brass and the people who come and visit us, have been together. So most of the people who we write prescription are people who have been there for 8 years, 10 years. You continuously see the same faces in conferences stalls, the same face when they come to meet you in the clinic, the same faces when you see them. That is what matters, and that is what counts a lot. Because if you see different faces at different points of time, that continuity totally goes. Again, it's not on you, but I'm just saying generally, when doctors writes prescription, a continuity, how long the person has been there, matters a lot, rather than who is standing in front of them. So there'll be new companies who'll be coming. They'll try to attract doctors by giving them other incentives, giving them some gifts or some journey or some tours. And then again, sometimes you may write them for some period of time, their products, sometimes you may not. But again, it depends. Again, when the conferences come, some conferences, there are big sponsors who spend a lot of money on the conferences, then you're obliged to write some of their products. Again, that is something which is different, which is again not in your hands, not that you need to know about or you need to understand. But I think this is important. So as I said, just summarizing the thoughts which I have done, it's nearly 3:23, so I'll speak for another 5 minutes, and then I'll take your questions for the next half an hour. So the important things to understand is that doctors are different. It is a good idea to understand who is expecting what before you get into their clinic. One way of understanding them is their degrees. If somebody has a foreign degree, generally you understand that they are well educated and they will not take any nonsense. So you cannot say anything which is which you do not are you not which you're not sure of. If you're not sure of some clinical facts or scientific facts, do not divulge your ignorance. Just to say the products or try to play low. Only when you're confident of what you know, then only you open your mouth and then only you speak about it. Because in case you ask one or two more questions, you need to know what to answer. So that is something very important. So you read the product monograph before you give it to the doctor to make sure you have your things very clearly there. That's number one. Number two is how you approach. As I said, so first be confident of your subject. The next thing is familiarity always counts. So you need to have a regularity in which you can connect with the doctor, and that is something which does matter, because regularity, especially in the beginning, is important, because that things. The next thing is nothing is better than success. Suppose you have a medicine for vomiting, and suppose the doctor is using it on 5-10 patients, and the vomiting is coming down, then he'll write it by himself. Then he'll say tell you the next time, তোমার এই ওষুধটা না দারুণ কাজ করছে. Then they'll be very happy. So like sometimes in infertility, we get a lot of patients who are having difficulty in becoming pregnant. So if there's a medicine which helps in that, and then we use it on a few of our patients, and there's good responses, then the doctor will go tell the patient, tell the company, hey, this is wonderful. When they darun kaj korche, like we have 4 patient দিলাম 3 জনের pregnancy এসে গেল. So that is something which is important. The other thing I think which I didn't stress on in my discussion but is so important is availability. Availability is one of the prime things for a lot of medicines. Medicines may not be available all over the place, but you can make them available at select places where you tell the doctor that we are trying to get it available all over the place, but at least for now it is available in these chain of counters, maybe Apollo Pharmacy, maybe Dhanvantari, maybe Blue Cross Tagachilo, other things. So some sort of chains, you can say this is where we can get it, or somewhere in a medical shop which is near to the doctor's clinic. A lot of doctors, especially even myself, we have some medical shops near to our clinic where they know what products we write, especially for people coming from the district to Calcutta, people who are coming from outside. We tell them that this is the product. This is you may not get this all over the district, but you will get it in this shop because I write it and they keep it. And then that is something where people can pick up the medicines. So your medicines have to be available at some medical shops near the doctor when you are mentioning it. I don't know how other doctors are. Many of them are very upset when medicines are not available. You go and tell a person that hey, oshudha likhun sir, please likhben na sir, eta likhle এটা পেশেন্টের ভালো হবে, then you write it, and then the patient comes and calls you or tells you it is not available. Then that becomes a very big loss of face for the doctor and a very big embarrassment for you. And sometimes when we get so upset with these companies like that, we say আর 6 মাসে আর মিট করবেন না, 6 মাস পরে মিট করবেন, you've lost your right to come and meet us in the next 6 months. So we just because this is something which most people will not accept and most people will not like. So this is something again which is very important, to make things available before you meet a doctor. Again, however many times you meet a doctor, sometimes doctors will not write your products even though you try again and again and again. What to do in that case? So you made them 6 times, you made them 12 times, you made them 24 times in 2 years, and your company has told you na in the doctor ke meet kortei hobe, he has a very big practice, otherwise amader hobe na, but you cannot make him write your products. There are some fixed mindsets in doctors where they may not write your product. They may write something else of a different company, or they may write some other product of your company, but at the same time it's after maybe 1 or 2 years, if you don't get anything out of it, then possibly you should move to some other doctor and spend your energy more wisely. Or if there is any reason why he or she is not writing, again you may not be able to ask it yourself, but when some senior comes down, said amader ki kono bhul hoyeche sir, are we going wrong somewhere, amra ki apnader, then you can try to find out if there's something that what you have done by some mistake, and then you can try to clarify it. So I think these are some ways in which you can connect with doctors and make sure that you can get your voice heard, because there's so many voices all around. When a doctor stands the clinic, he sees 20-30 patients. After that there are 15 people waiting. Then you, after one of the 15 you are there, how do you get your voice heard? or your voice matters, which makes difference from everybody else. So this is when this matters. Like personally, I sometimes use a lot of time to meet medical representatives. I sometimes give them half an hour time to meet 20-30 people, each of them 1 or 2 minutes. I make them sit down, talk to them, and then make them get up. But all the time it's not possible. Sometimes you have 5 minutes, you have 10 people. That time you can say, so that's always, it may not have all the time. But whenever you have a little bit of quality time, you understand this is my time to make a dent. This is my time to take a personal connection, and every personal connection matters, because that is something which will take you forward. About birthdays, anniversary, wishes, I think every doctor likes it. Everybody likes it. If you want to be wished on your birthday or your anniversary, I think there's nobody who doesn't like to be wished on your birthday or anniversary. So it does make a difference. So if you know the person but from the Facebook, you know that this is her birthday, his birthday or anniversary, you can use it. You can directly say, use that. There's again a lot of companies who save up birthdays and anniversaries but never use it. They only keep it for the data and their records. So that may be done by your company. But if you are smart enough and you want to make a dent, you don't have to give it through the company. Give a small rose, give a small thing, give a small chocolate. That makes a very big commitment. Jehan, this is coming from my personal pocket, but this is something which I'm doing for my doctor, and my company is not doing anything, but it doesn't matter because my doctor will write my medicines. So I think those are things which definitely, that personal touch is a very, very important thing, which a lot of doctors, a lot of pharma companies don't have, a lot of doctors even don't have. But I think that is something which is of immense importance. And at least in my practice, I know it makes a lot of difference and a lot of dent if you have that personal. Because as I said, when you write a product, the person's face comes into your mind when you write the product, because not that it is useful, not that it's saying that's an and then you give a trust. Sometimes you write one medicine 15-20 times in one day, and then you have a big trust, and everybody is very happy. So I think this is how it moves. It's around 3:28. There's some questions which have come in the chat box. Oh, this is all about this is all about keeping quiet and your network and all. So if anybody wants to shoot questions, please be free to shoot. I'll go into my gallery view so I can see most people. There are 49 people who have logged in. So Namrata, please guide me on how you want to have this part.
Okay. Any of the students, y'all have any queries or question you can ask Dr. Mukherjee?
You can either unmute and speak up.
Yeah, you'll unmute and speak, and then
you can do whatever, because be free, because I try to be as free as possible, because whatever I spoke to you is whatever it's from my heart. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, may I ask something?
Yes, please go ahead. I can't see your name. Can you identify yourself?
Yes, sir. Sir, my name is Kiran Kumar Sarkar.
Kiran Kumar Sarkar. Yes, Kiran, tell me.
Yes, sir, I have a question. That is, what will be my ideal answer if I have not any answer to the particular question of the doctor related to the
product? Of course,
product?
there is so many times. There's so many times when a doctor will ask you a question where you will not know the answer, because obviously you haven't. The subject is not that you first of all you would not have known that. That's why I said the best thing is to try to read what you're going to tell them. Try to read a little bit about it. Try to get the basic knowledge so that you can answer. That's one thing. If you are asked something which you do not know or do not have, you say, "Sir, I will find out. I will try to get it." There's no shame there. You are not supposed to know everything, whatever product you are saying. You say that, "Sir, definitely I will just get back to with my medical advice and I'll get back to you." There's no shame in not knowing. Nobody knows everything. So in case the doctor asks you something, nobody will say, it's not an examination. It's not just sometimes you may ask a question. I said, Indian studies ache. Do you scratch your head? Well, no, Indian studies, sir. Sir, sir. You can just say that. You can say that it's all right. I'll find out and I'll tell you. So there's no question about. But don't make up. Don't say, "Hey, sir, if you don't know, you to say you don't know." And that is what attracts doctors very much, when you're frank and when you say what you don't know, you don't know. Sir, আমার তো জানা নেই, কিন্তু আমি আপনাকে খোঁজ নিয়ে আমি definitely আপনাকে জানাবো। আমি কি ইমেল করব না আমি WhatsApp করব? And then you are just and if you're that sincere, in 2 days you'll email and WhatsApp the doctor whatever he has required. And the next time you meet, "Sir, আপনি আমাকে আগেরবার বলেছিলেন, আমি আপনাকে পাঠিয়েছিলাম, আপনি কি পেয়েছিলেন?" তখন তখন half of the time we won't read এবং ভুলে গিয়েছিল, but sir আমি আরেকবার পাঠিয়ে দিচ্ছি, and then that's absolutely that's a way of connection, wonderful way.
Yes, sir.
Next question, Kiran.
No,
Anybody?
sir, that's all
Hi, sir.
that I have. Thank you.
Hi, sir. This is Shubhadeep Das, and
Shubhadeep,
very good
no?
evening. And hi,
Yeah,
sir.
Shubhadeep, no, please shoot.
And very good evening, sir. Thanks for having us, and thanks for your precious time, sir. First of all, and like I have a small question. Like, is there any tricks and tips? Like, how should we demand for a prescription in front of a doctor? So
Yeah.
that is my question, sir.
Yeah, so tips and tricks of demand means, see, as I told you, so you have to be using whatever opportunity you have. So if there's an opportunity where you are only 2 or 3 people waiting for the doctor after the clinic finishes, you try to use that opportunity to push a product than a time when there are 20 people waiting. So that is number one. So you try to use the opportune moment where you can have a discussion. Writing a product doesn't mean you flash a name and a person starts pouring prescriptions the next day. It doesn't always work that way. Use the time when your head office people come. Use the time when your NSM, ASM, ZSM come, because that is the time when the doctor almost all the time will bound to be given some hearing and some listen. So try to use that time, to use push in your products. If you yourself have time, it's fine, but sometimes you will not get the thing. So you cannot push or force anybody to write anything. So there's no question about pushing and forcing. And some doctors are very, very, very upset when people are pushy and very, very pushy. So you have to try to make the fine balance where you're telling a person, sir, this is something which will be helpful for your patients. This is something which will make a difference. Apni dekhte paren likhe, and then we can take it. So this is something where you can say, you cannot say that আপনি লিখুন, না লিখলে আমরা খেপে যাবো আমরা, ওরকম তো হয় না, you can't say that. So at the same time, so you try in your, so as I said, persistence is important. একবার হলো না, ঠিক আছে, দুবার হলো না, ঠিক আছে, তিনবার একবার দুটো লিখলো, তারপর ভুলে গেল সঙ্গে সঙ্গে, তারপর বলছে স্যার আমি কি রিমাইন্ড করে দেবো, স্যার আমি কি মাঝে মাঝে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ করতে পারি? হ্যাঁ, হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ করতে পারো, ফোন করো না। দ্যাটস হোয়াট আই সে। lot of my medical representatives প্রচুর ক্লিনিকের আগে একটা one গুচ্ছ of WhatsApp. Again, now I admit that I don't always see them, but এটা স্যার প্রেসক্রাইব করবেন, স্যার আজকে এটা সাপোর্ট দেবেন, স্যার আজকে ওটা করবেন, স্যার এটা। So the people do keep on asking. So I think there are ways of trying to make your point. Again, you say use the opportunity. Only when there are less people, then try to spend more time with the doctor rather than when there are too many people, because if there are too many people, if you spend more than 30 seconds, then it may be more detrimental than positive. And you see how the doctors are. Everybody is not the same. There's some doctors will have to be bole dao, naam gulo bole dao, thik ache hoye gache chole jao. So that will be some doctors, and some doctors say thik ache, acha ki ache notun dekhi, acha eta acha eta to erao to bar koreche, bole ha erao bar koreche, acha আমাদেরটা তো এটা বেটার আছে, আচ্ছা তো তোমার কি বলো, সব অ্যাভেলেবল আছে? হ্যাঁ অ্যাভেলেবল আছে, ঠিক আছে চলে তো আমি লিখবো। তো something like that. So there's different people who approach different. So you have to gauge the person who you are engaging with. And the first 1 or 2 visits can just be to gauge the person, because you will not know him or her, how she reacts. So it's very important to get your psychology right. যার সঙ্গে আমি meet করছি, what does he or her want? How can I get his attention? It's not that there's no magic or secrets. You will try to find. Everybody is different. Everybody doesn't work the same principle doesn't work with everybody. So some people work with gifts, some people work with nice words, some people work with a personal connection. And I think personal connection is on the top of everything. Because once a doctor knows your name, which is a big thing, representative নাম usually ডাক্তাররা সবসময় মনে থাকে না, but যখন মনে থাকে, that means you made a dent. That's the first thing. Next time এই এসো, এই নামটা ধরে ডাকো, এই অর্পিতা এসো, that's something like that. Then that means they've made a dent. I mean, that's the first break that you have done, and that's a very big positive thing. সেখান থেকে you will have your prescriptions, you will have your things, you will have your write-ups. So that is the way. There's no magic bullet, but persistence matters, knowing your subject matters, and trying to use the right opportunity matters. Follow next.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This is Sandeep Raywalia, and I'm the operations manager at Endeavour. It was a wonderful time that you gave, sir. I have a question that I would want to ask you on behalf of my students. Like generally what happens is, like when a prescription bounces, the doctor is really upset, as you said. But how once the prescription has already bounced, generally the doctor doesn't want to write it once again. That is what we felt. How to convince that doctor to rewrite the product? If you can put some light on it.
So usually if a person is angry or upset, you need to give some time for that anger to simmer down. So that is, it is not possible to do that overnight. There's not much of justification you have. Now, if you want to fight with the medical shop where it was not available, or where it was the last trip went, and instead of contacting you, they did not contact them, they told the doctor, "Na, shesh hoye geche, puriye geche," then there's no point doing that. So if you want to get back to your doctor, which a lot of people do, you need to give it some time to simmer down. And that time to simmer down is usually a few months and not a few days or weeks. So at least একটা দুটো মাস যাক, তারপর তুমি বলো যে স্যার, then you again renew, but don't start with that product, start with something else, and then come back to that product, because that product has got already a negative connotation in his or her head. So start with something else and then go back to that, and probably get it with get some other people with you at that time. Don't go alone, because you would already have a negative connotation. So go with another person there. So sometimes we do, it does happen, because people get angry, people get upset that amai liklam our patient pilona. So that's a big negative. So at the same time, so if you want to change that, if you want to make a, then that again, let's try to again start from the beginning. Then first of all, you have to make sure it's next time it's available, that now the prescription doesn't bounce. That's number one. Number two is that you should start with some other product rather than going into that product straight and then go come in later. Next is possibly you go with some senior or some other colleague of yours. When you go together, then you may be having, then it may be, then he may try to say that, sir, ও তো একটু ভুল করেছে, ওকে একটু ভুলে ক্ষমা করে দিন, আমরা তো এখন সব করেছি, তখন ওটা একটা প্রবলেম হয়েছিল. So that is the way you can cover it. You cannot cover it yourself. You cannot cover it saying that, sir, এখন এবার আর ভুল হবে না. এবার আর ভুল হবে না is okay. You admit that you have a mistake. You admit that you are sorry. Everybody, nobody will be very angry once you say you are sorry. Nobody will be angry once you say that it is my mistake. So it is my mistake and sorry are some magic words, which definitely moves a lot of compassion towards you. So even if a person is angry, upset, কতদিন angry থাকবে, কতদিন upset থাকবে, so after some time definitely সে বলবে, হ্যাঁ সঙ্গে সঙ্গে প্রোডাক্টটা লিখবে না, but he will not be upset and angry with you. So that's the first step. The next step is trying to start again writing the product, but again, don't start with that, start with something else and then slowly come back to that. একটু সময় লাগবে. Sometimes like people may take 6 weeks or months, but at the same time, that is the way in which you will go. And then if you try to, and usually at this point of time, you don't try to find out the কোন medicine shop থেকে bounce করলো, কোথায় হলো, আমি আগুল করার চেষ্টা করছি. Usually at that time, the doctors don't get very impressed by those that talk doesn't help. Best is to admit, sir, ভুল হয়ে গেছে, স্যার হবে না, আমরা দেখছি, আমাদের এটা তখন ছিল না, একটু শর্টেজ ছিল, আপনাকে জানানো হয়নি, এটা আর হবে না. So it has to come from either somebody else or some other way. And once you apologize and once you say that it's fine, again, often it's not your fault. Like at the end of the day, often it's not your fault. But at the same time, for a doctor, it's they say that a leakage করেছিল, লিখলাম, পাওয়া যায়নি, আমার patient suffer করেছে. The doctors don't understand that. Often it's not your fault. Often it is some problem of the supplies. But at the same time, for a doctor representative relationship, it makes a very big mark there. This is not available and this has been bounced. Any other questions? Anybody else can be free to tune in.
Thank you very much, doctor, for helping me with the answer. Students might have another question.
Good evening, sir. I am Vivek Kumar Saw.
Vivek,
Sir, how to if there is a large pharma companies available in India, sir. If I belong to a low class pharma company, how to cut off the competition in compared to a doctor?
So the competition, what does the other person have which you don't have? The first thing which the other person has which you don't have is money. So the other person has a lot of money, but you have, as I said, personal experience and personal touch has nothing to do with money. But sometimes some doctors are impressed with gifts, sometimes some doctors are impressed with something else, and that is not something which is in your hands. You cannot change the way another person feels. What you can only do is how can you come into the picture, how can you make a difference? So when you don't have money to give, when you don't have gifts to give, when you don't have anything, products to, samples to give, then how do you make a difference? How do you reach to the doctor? You talk about other things. You talk about আজকে খেলা হলো, স্যার আজকে ম্যাচটা দেখেছেন, দারুণ, এটা ইন্ডিয়া জিতলো, কি দারুণ খেললো, তো আজকে এই করলো. Then on her birthday, as I said, you don't have to give anything. Give a rose, give a small thing. That is the thing. Tomar company kichu dayni, tumi ekta jinish dile. This becomes a huge difference. And the personal connection, it's all on the personal connection. And a lot of things work on the personal connection more than a big company. But a company ki ache, but a company poisha ache. But poisha doesn't make everything. All people are not the same. Some doctors are like that, but everybody is not the same. So you have to see which doctor you are visiting. If there are doctors who only is doing MNC chhara likhbo na product, a boro company chhara likhbo na, tade kache ki kono labh nei. These people are not kuchu, they'll be writing like that. So you don't have to go to them. So you have to go to people who connect. So you have to choose your doctor. You have to choose a person who will write your products, who will give, you can say that the quality is almost the same, the benefit, cost benefit to the patients, and you use your positive things, because your positive things in your company will be cost benefits, because you will be having products at a much lower cost to the things. And usually, generally, আমি বলি সবই 19-20, আপনাদের 19 or 20, তো 19-20 it doesn't often matter. It's not that always the quality matters and always things. Yes, it may not be 100% pure. There may be 99, you may be 96. But at the same time, it's fine. But the thing works in most of the cases. Most placebos work in most of the cases. So these are the things I think which you need to look at when you are a company which cannot compete with a big company. You have a big heart, but you may not have a big pocket. But at the same time, that is what you should utilize. You should try to make a dent. And a lot of this usually works a lot in peripheral areas and district areas where the big companies often do not come to meet you. And you will, because what is in your hands? In your hands is you can regularly meet the doctor. That is one more thing which you can do. Then you can connect well. You can have more of a rapport, and that is what will make a difference. And the doctors are bound to write your prescriptions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anybody has any
Any
questions?
student? Anybody? Yes, Namrata, you can host.
Any students have any other queries or questions?
Hello.
Oh,
Yes,
there's one.
Arjun, no? Yeah. Go ahead,
Hello.
Arjun.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
we can hear you.
Just tell your name and then go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So my question is that how I switch on a doctor from her molecule habit. That means
How do you switch a doctor? No, can you repeat the question?
How I switch on a doctor's molecule habit. I mean, he or she is prefer a molecule which is not content in our medicine, but our medicine have a different molecule. So how I switch on this?
So how do you switch over? How do you make the doctor switch over? So the first thing is that I don't think you can make any doctor switch over molecule. They have fixed thoughts. A lot of doctors in the east, and I think the south or east, or I think north, are very habit oriented. A lot of doctors stick to their habit, and once we pene chole asha, and then they don't move. They keep on writing the same product again and again and again and again and again and again. So a lot of east zone doctors, they have seen the medical companies. They once you get the product on the pen, it keeps on moving the product. You just cannot change it. Now changing a molecule, one person writes ferrous fumarate, and now you want to make her write ferrous ascorbate. How do you do it? Now, if you want to change the molecule, you have to bring out what your positives are in your molecule. That is the first difference you have to show. Well, sir, apni to eta lekhen, কিন্তু স্যার এটা তো অনেক ভালো, এটাতে তো এই সবগুলো পাচ্ছে, এখানে পেশেন্টের এই অসুবিধা কম হবে, এখানে আরো লোকের তাড়াতাড়ি রক্ত বাড়বে, তাড়াতাড়ি এই হবে সুবিধে. You have to give them a reason why you are saying that you are superior, because you will not just say, oh, তোর ভালো, আচ্ছা এগুলো লিখবো, ওরও লিখবো, আচ্ছা সবাই মিলেমিশে লিখবো. No, you have to say something to make a dent, and this will not happen only at one day. You have to say repeatedly. Sir, so don't have to start with sir, apni eta lekhen, because see, every doctor knows. I think most of the doctors know that prescriptions are being monitored, and prescriptions are often being followed in a large number. So some doctors have great followers. So they know that prescriptions are followed by other people. So people who are degree holders, prescriptions are often followed by rural practitioners and other doctors who do not know much, but acha ei doctor likhche tar mane bhalo oshud hobe tale amio likh. So there are a lot of doctors whose prescriptions are followed massively, and that is the reason why companies are behind them, je ami jodi ei ekta likhi tale amar 10 ta berobe karon er theke aro 10 jon copy korbe. So that's one thing. So a molecule, to change a molecule a doctor is writing is not a very easy thing, because doctors have fixed thoughts. So to change a habit, you need to have some very good convincing, and it won't come only from you. It doesn't work like that. So you will make a dent. You have to say that what advantages do you have above the molecule which he or she is writing. One could be cost. One could be absorption. One could be the efficacy. So it has to have some sort of, it must be to have something in different from what he or she is writing. Then the next thing is that if you can organize a CME or an academic discussion, then you need to talk about people who are writing the product, your product, and try to bring them into the same discussion. That he is writing some other product. So at one doctor convincing another doctor is easier than a medical representative convincing a doctor. So medical representative convincing a doctor practice change hoye gelo pray kokhono hoy na. It is very, very rare. So don't try to do the impossible. So what you can try to do is you can make a dent. You can try to keep on hitting on that. আমি ধরুন মাইক্রোনাইজ প্রজেস্টোজেন একদমই লিখিনি, আমি প্রথম থেকে 20 বছর লিখি। এখন যদি কেউ আমাকে লিখতে বলে, I will not be able to write because I haven't written it for 20 years, and I write some other molecule. I've written it for 20 years. এখন সেটা তো কেউ হঠাৎ চেঞ্জ করতে পারে না, and by nobody's thing, unless the research changes, unless there's some new studies, unless there's some new scientific evidence, then you can, of course, you can try to change me. But that is, you have to show me. So again, if you say that amar molecule, tor molecule ke better, show your papers, show your research. So জানেন এই ট্রায়ালটা হয়েছিল, এই ট্রায়ালে দেখা গেছে না আপনি যেটা লিখছেন তার থেকে এটা অনেক ভালো কাজ করে। আপনি কি দেখেছেন এখানে এটা করছে? So a lot of doctors are convinced, like lay people, with printed matter. That is the scientific article থাকে ছাপানো, printed. A lot of people are convinced more than মুখের কথায়। মুখের কথা তো সবাই অনেক কিছুই বলে, বাট এটা প্রিন্টেড যদি ম্যাটেরিয়াল থাকে, হ্যাঁ একটা ট্রায়াল হয়েছে, সব ট্রায়ালে সব মলিকিউল সুপিরিয়র বলবে না, কিছুতে এটা বলবে, কিছুতে ওটা বলবে, বাট ইউ ট্রাই টু বায়াস ইয়োরসেলফ বাই যেগুলোতে তোমার মলিকিউলটা সুপিরিয়র বলেছে, দেন ডক্টর বলছে আচ্ছা এটা তাই, এটা তাই, হ্যাঁ স্যার লেটেস্ট এটা বেরিয়েছে এখানে, আপনি জানেন এগুলো এখন এটাই চলছে, ঠিক আছে তাহলে দেখবো, তাহলে চিন্তা করো। দ্যাট ইজ হাউ ইট গোস। চলো নেক্সট বলো।
Sir, hello sir. My name is Ranojit Oza. I have a question about if any doctor already prescribing my medicines, then before I go visit them, so that point what I can do?
What you can do? So first of all, যেটা করে অনেক লোকে, but I personally don't like it. So if you have in your product basket, let's say 6 products, and you know that this doctor is writing 2 of them, then should you start with those 2 or you should start with the other 4? A lot of people start with the other 4 and then come back to the last duto I've taken. But I think I would like to people to start with the first 2. যে দেখুন আপনি তো এগুলো খুব লেখেন, এটাই স্যার, এটা thank you very much for your prescription, আপনার প্রেসক্রিপশন পাচ্ছি, if you start with that না, that's a positive bonding, rather than একদম শেষে তুমি বললে যে হ্যাঁ এগুলো আছে, এগুলো তো আপনি লেখেন, হ্যাঁ এগুলো ঠিক আছে, এগুলো আপনার মনে থাকে, এগুলো আপনি ভুলে যান, এগুলো আমি আবার মনে করে দিচ্ছি, this doesn't exactly work. So it's always good to start with the positives. হ্যাঁ স্যার আপনার সাপোর্ট পেয়েছি, আপনার স্যার থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ, দিস ইজ ওয়ান্ডারফুল, দিস ইজ হোয়াট ইজ অলওয়েজ আ পজিটিভ বিগিনিং, রাদার দ্যান এগুলো স্যার আছে আমাদের, আর তারপর লাস্টে দুটো দেখালে হ্যাঁ এগুলো তো আপনি লেখেনি, এগুলো বলে নেই। That should not be the way you connect. Again, the psychology has to be very, very clear. You try to make the doctor happy. You want to make him or her pleased in the small interaction that you make it. You don't want to make that thing. So thank you very much. Thank you is a wonderful word. Je thank you bolbe songe songe shobai khub khushi hoye jabe. Thank you is a wonderful word. Thank you sir, apni onek likhchen, apnar prescription pacchi, but this is a good way to start. Acha egulo chhadao amader egulo ache sir, you can have a look at that. So that is what you want to continue the good work. So that is about it, but you have to acknowledge that. এই যে বলেন যে স্যার থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার আপনার প্রেসক্রিপশন পাচ্ছি স্যার থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ, that is a very positive thing. আপনি কন্টিনিউ করুন, বলা দরকার নেই, সে কন্টিনিউ এমনিতেই করবে, তুই বলিস আর না বলিস, তুই তো আজ গেলি তো আগে তো আরো 5 জন এসে ঘুরে গেছে, সো ইটস নট এ বেস্ট কন্টিনিউ সে করবে এমনিতে। থ্যাংক ইউ আমরা পাচ্ছি আপনার প্রেসক্রিপশন, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ, এগুলো ছাড়া আমাদের এগুলোও আছে। সো দ্যাটস দ্য ওয়ে ইউ গো when your person is already writing your product. So all you need to do is the or আপনার আগে আপনার সঙ্গে দেখা করতো, এখন স্যার ও তো ছেড়ে দিয়েছে অন্যদিকে গেছে, এখন আমি আছি, আপনার সঙ্গে যোগাযোগ রাখবো। So this is another way of when you are coming for the first time, but usually some senior will come and introduce you when you're coming for the first time, but otherwise that is fine. So this is for a person who already is writing a product, just to continue the good work, but start in the positive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello.
Any more questions?
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, Arjun, carry on, tell me.
Sir, when we and that time doctor told me that yes, I start writing your product, but after that, day by day, frequently when I meet with his or her, but they could not try to prescribe more, or they could not start our product to the patient. But when I go to his or her chamber, that time he or she said that yes, I start your product. Right? So what is the problem that time actually happened?
Absolutely. So many times it happens. Now you think, you put your place inside of a doctor. সেই ডাক্তার এখন বসে আছে, সেই ডাক্তারের সামনে there are 10 medical representatives coming up and saying 7 different products at one point of time, and then the person is sitting down, সে লিখছে না, সে মাথায় মাথা নাড়ছে, হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে দেখছি, হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে দেখছি, and then after that everybody goes, and then your patients walk in, but patients তখন তো শেষ হয়ে গেছে, patient আবার next টাইম হবে 2 days later, তখন কটা তার মনে আছে, কটা তার এই রিমাইন্ডার কার্ড দিয়ে গেল, এই দিয়ে গেল, একটা প্রোডাক্ট মনোগ্রাফ দিয়ে গেল, এগুলো দিয়ে গেল, বাট পিপল টু টেন্ড টু ফরগেট না, মধ্যখানে তার সংসার আছে, তার বাবা আছে, বাচ্চা আছে, তার অন্য অন্য কাজ আছে, সে বাজারে গিয়ে মাংস কিনতে যাবে, ডক্টর ফরগেট না, এভরিবডি ইজ লাইবল টু ফরগেট। সে শুধু তখনই তার মনে পড়ছে প্রোডাক্ট যখন তোমাকে দেখতে পাচ্ছে, যখন তোমাকে দেখতে পাচ্ছে না তখন তার প্রোডাক্ট মনে পড়ছে না। ইট হ্যাপেন্স সো মাচ, সো মেনি টাইমস। তার মানে না ও কেন মিথ্যে কথা বলছে, ও বলছে তো লিখবো, কেন লিখছে না, এটা বদমাশ ডাক্তার, এরকম তো বাজি, এরকম ভাবে তো ইউ ক্যানট থিংক, বিকজ দিস পিপল আর আফটার অল হিউম্যান বিংস। That is the reason why you have to keep on reminding. ওই জন্য বললাম না, বারবার দেখা হলে তখন চোখে লোকের ভাববে, অত কি সোজা থাকে একটা ডাক্তারের হাতে পেন থেকে প্রেসক্রিপশন বার করা, অত সোজা হলে তো হয়ে যেত। We don't need to all these things. যেটা ছোটখাটো জিনিস, এটা বিরাট বড় জিনিস। একটা ডাক্তারের একটা প্রেসক্রিপশন দেখা, তুই ডোন্ট থিঙ্ক ইটস ছোট, আমি বললাম আর লিখলো, আমি বললাম না লিখলো না, এরকম ওরকম নাকি? বিগ থিং। একটা ডাক্তারের একটা ওষুধ লেখা, ডোন্ট থিঙ্ক ইটস আ স্মল থিং। এই যে এন্ডেভার এগুলো করছে, ইট ইজ নট আ স্মল থিং। হলে এরকম ইনস্টিটিউশন তৈরি হতো না, বলে বলতো না হ্যাঁ ভাই বলে দাও লিখে দেবে, এরকম ভাবে বলে, এরকম ধরাই আছে। You have to make a difference. It doesn't come like that way, Arjun Babu. You have to make a difference. You have to be in this. That's why we're saying what makes you stand out. এই যে 7 জন তো বলে গেল, সবাই তুমি মাথা নিয়ে গেলে, হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে দেখছি, হ্যাঁ লিখবো, হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে, আচ্ছা এরপরটা বল, ঠিক আছে আজকে সময় নেই, এরপর চলে যাবে, পরের দিন দেখা হবে, সব হয়ে গেল। নেক্সট ডে 2 দিন পরে আবার সব পেশেন্ট আইলো, সবার লেখা হলো না, এই আমার আজকে তো লেখা হলো না, এই আমার তো একটাও বেরোলো না, আমার এই this is expected. হয় এগুলোই তো হয়। So out of the 50 people who you visit, maybe 5 জন লিখলো, 50 এর মধ্যে 5 is a start. তুমি বলে না মাত্র 5 জন লিখলো, কি হবে? That doesn't mean that means 5 is a very big positive. এগুলো মনে রাখতে হবে, and that's what, and শোনো, মানে it's not that, so একটা হচ্ছে ভুলে যাওয়া, একটা হচ্ছে ইচ্ছে করে না লেখা। এখন ইচ্ছে করে না লেখা, again ইচ্ছে করে না লেখা usually is not the case, but ভুলে যাওয়া is very common, because everything doesn't always remember. And also is what type of personality or what type of impression you give to the doctor. If you are a little confident, if you say that sir এটা তো স্যার আমি একটু এসেছিলাম আগে আপনি বলে ভুলে যাচ্ছেন যদি একটুখানি দেখেন এরকম that will be a fine thing আপনি বোধহয় ভুলে যাচ্ছেন is absolutely right because সত্যি সে ভুলে যাচ্ছে so you can always bring that up স্যার বোধহয় ভুলে যাচ্ছেন এটা আমি আপনাকে আরো 2-3 বার বলেছিলাম একটু যদি দেখেন that's fine, that's absolutely fine. And because definitely আমরা ভুলে যাই and it doesn't always say that তুমি বলবে সবকটা একদম মাথায় ঢুকে যাবে সেরকম নয় সে পড়াশোনাও করবে সে ওষুধও মাথায় রাখবে নতুন ওষুধ পুরনো ওষুধ এই ওষুধ সবকিছু আসে না মনে করে doesn't work like that plus সে বাড়ির কাজও করবে তার বউ বাচ্চাকে সামলাবে প্লাস তারপরে এই করবে প্লাস তারপর অন্য কিছু করবে তার বয়স্ক বাবা মাকে সামলাবে it doesn't you're a human being at the end of the day ডাক্তারি তো একটা পেশা তুমি একটা মুখে কথা বললে শেষ আবার লিখলো it's a big thing it doesn't come naturally but it will come লেগে থাকতে হবে and to create the right impression as we said that's the reason why all this discussion ওরকম আমি কেন বারবার বলছি ওকে লিখছে না ও বলছে না তারপর যেটা বললাম তারপর কিছুদিন বললো স্যার আমার কি কোনো ভুল হচ্ছে আমার কি আমি কি কিছু করতে পারি then that's another thing or do you go with a senior person on the third visit স্যার দেখো অনেক কষ্ট করছে অনেকবার আসছে আপনার কাছে যদি আপনি একটু সাপোর্ট করেন তাহলে ভালো হয় something like that so that is how it goes it doesn't go like that is how it goes chalo
yes Dr. Mukherjee, it was a good eye-opening session for all the students and plus for myself because whatever questions I had prepared you asked all the questions you answered to all the questions so I don't have any questions to ask you right now
it's a nice feeling I'm doing it for the first time some of my colleagues have done it 4-5 years ago বন্ধুরা আছে 4-5 বছর আগে এরকম সেশন করেছে তাদের আমরা গল্প তার সঙ্গে but আমার অনেক কিছু বলার ছিল which most of the things I've told because a lot of it is on psychology psychology is a very very important thing psychology লোকেদের জানা দরকার সে তোমার সামনে এলো সে কি জিনিস কি ব্যাপার কিছু মানে জাস্ট ফিউ সেকেন্ডস এর মধ্যে তুমি মুহূর্তে বুঝতে পারবে যে কি জিনিসটা কি চাই কি রকম ব্যাপার কি রকম কথা বলতে হবে কি করতে হবে অলওয়েজ ইউজ ইউর ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ which you know best don't use always ইংরেজিতে কথা না বললে শালা বুঝবো না ইংরেজি বললে মানে আমি ভালো করে বলতে যাচ্ছি আমার অত ভালো নয় আমার ফার্স্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ বেঙ্গলি is fine হিন্দি is fine you don't have to ভুল ইংরেজি বললে আরো বেশি না মুশকিল হবে ভুল ইংরেজি কখনো বলার চেষ্টা করো না যদি ইংরেজি বলতে না পারো ইংরেজি বলার দরকার নেই বাংলায় বলো মাতৃভাষায় বলো হিন্দিতে বলো use whatever your language you use best don't have to speak in English all the time it's preferable to speak in English তুমি যদি পরে তোমাদের প্রমোশন হয় তখন of course you have to have good spoken English there's no question about it তুমি ইংলিশ বলতে গেলে যদি করো তখন মুশকিল রিয়েলি মুশকিল ইংলিশ ভালো করে যদি বলতে পারো ভালো করে ইংলিশ বলবে যদি ইংলিশ বলতে না পারো বাংলায় বলবে but again Bangla also is very catchy Bangla হলে your connection is better actually than trying to say in English তোমার সিনিয়র দাঁড়িয়ে এবার একটু উঁকি মারবে যে না ইংলিশ অত ইংলিশ বলা দরকার if in case English if your spoken English is good use English if your spoken English is not good use Bengali but use the language in which you can connect best as I said a lot of things on connection একবার কানেকশনটা হয়ে গেলে তারপর আর অনেক দিন চলতে থাকবে কানেকশন but that connection create করাটা কোনো ছোটখাটো ব্যাপার নয় it's a huge thing ওই জন্য বললাম একটা ইন্ডাস্ট্রি তৈরি হয়ে যাচ্ছে মানে to make that connection it's not an easy thing it's very very difficult and it doesn't take it takes weeks and months to make that connection একদিন হলো না 4 দিন হলো না দাদা লিখছে না দৌড় বাবা আছে এরকম করে হবে চলো
now Dr. Mukherjee even you will have a golpo to tell to your colleagues and friends after this session
yeah it's nice and fun Namrata it's nice
yeah. Sure.
Anything else before we wind up anything else
yeah we'll wind up in 1 minute one moment
yeah before we wind up I would just like to say sir it was really we have been conducting this session this is the second session that we have started we started the project because lot of medical representatives are there in the market who are working but they do not know what is the core work that they should do there is no platform wherein a doctor can connect with them so we thought of introducing it we are doing it right with your help most of the questions that was there in our mind believe me you are speaking like a trainer that our trainer does so I would take this session as a doctor's training session to all of us including the mentors also the mentors are also watching your session live over here So thank you very much for devoting your wonderful time. I'm sure most of our students, it will be really, really helpful for them. And we will look forward to getting your precious time in once or, once in 2 months or 3 months time. It will be really, really helpful for the new generation to be the right, kind of pharma sales professional that a doctor wants.
Thank you, Shandeep. Thank you, Namrata. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you, students.
Bye.
Thank you very much, doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
students,
sir.
for participating. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, doctor has already gone right now.
So students who have attended this session, this was Dr. Basab Mukherjee. He's a renowned gynecologist and what I would want to say is, like, if you have your question, we try to arrange this webinar with the doctor once in a month. So all the medical representative training program students, MRTP students, if you are having any questions related to the what a doctor should answer, you can note it down. When the doctor session is there, you can ask those questions. This is the best platform, believe me, this is the best platform through which